Hey sis, each month inside Entrusted Women University, we feature a brand new interview. You can watch the full interview only in Entrusted Women University, but you can check out this snippet right now.
Because if you love the Lord, you are tethered to Him and the people He has assigned you to by love.
That part.
And that requires sacrifices.
Ooh. You need to put that in a bottle and sell it.
That requires sacrifices.
Well, hello, Entrusted Women. I am here with a new friend, and y'all, it's all over my face. I'm so excited to interview her. Hi, Rhonda. How are you?
Hello, Kia. It's a pleasure to meet you. I'm always so excited to have an opportunity to be interviewed by a Christian woman.
All right, that's me. I love the Lord. Y'all, I gotta say, Rhonda, before I dive into her bio, just in case you don't know who she is, your book was recommended to me by at least two people. Tony Shiloh recommended it, and then my sister friend Naja Drakes, hey Naj, she recommended it to me, and I was like, "What is the big deal about the book?" The first book, this book right here, the thing about home. Yes, the thing about home, and I got to tell you, I cried. I literally cried. And I think I heard from the Lord because I changed a perspective I had in my marriage at the end of this book. So I was like, Jesus. Okay. And so then after that, then I started stalking you. And then I had to go and get Bitter and Sweet. And it was equally good. And I was equally in love. Okay, so we're going to talk about your writing and your process. That's who we're talking to. We're talking to aspiring writers or existing writers, and mostly nonfiction, but there's some fiction people woven over in here. I'm one of those people. And so let me tell you about who Rhonda is. Rhonda McKnight is the author of the 2025 Christie Award-winning novel Bitter and Sweet and the 2024 Emma Award winner, The Thing About Home. She has also written several other award-winning bestsellers, including Unbreak My Heart and An Inconvenient Friend. She writes book club fiction and romance about complex characters in crisis. Her goal is to touch the heart of women with the themes of faith, forgiveness, and hope. In addition to penning 28 novels, what? Rhonda had a 24-year career with family and children's services. She teaches fiction writing through her virtual writing workshop and provides developmental editing services. Rhonda is the mother of 2 adult sons and a very spoiled Jack Russell. Who is this?
Jack Russell Terrier.
Oh, okay. I'm not a dog person. Okay. Originally from a small coastal town in New Jersey, she writes from the comfort of her South Carolina home. Okay, Rhonda, wow. I don't even know where to start. Were you an English major? Were you passionate about writing? Like, where did this come from 28 novels later?
Yeah. I always tried to write from the time I was 6 years old. I remember my dad was in tech school, and he would have these big sheets of drafting paper that when he messed up, he had to redo it. And so he had a lot of sheets that he was discarding, and I would take the back of them and I would start drawing pictures. And I started drawing pictures about this, and my mother hates that I tell this story, a family of mice that lived under the boardwalk in the town that I lived in Asbury Park. She's like, why are you writing about mice? And so, but they were my characters. And I think because I loved Mighty Mouse. So it began there. It began with pictures, and I've always wanted to tell stories. During my childhood, I always tried to write novels. I never wrote poetry. I've never been much of a short story writer. I think I probably wrote my first real short story maybe 15 years ago, and just always wanted to write long form. And so but I got away from it when I went to college because, of course, I got busy with college work and it was hard. And I did not study English. I actually went to the Fashion Institute of Technology in New York City, and I was a textile technology major. So my major and even my career in human services, once I got beyond like the initial being a caseworker for a few years, I moved into business process reengineering. I've always been one of those people who likes to fix systems. And so it naturally just came out of me as a result of some opportunities when I was even with Family and Children Services. And um, so I have like this real technical side and then this creative side, which I think the technical side helps with the editing. But I got away from it. And then when it wasn't until I got married that I started read. My husband was a reader. And so we used to like to read books. Whatever I got and I read, he would read. And so I realized that I used to write. Like I'd really forgotten that love for writing.
Yeah.
So, I used to write and I haven't written anything in a long time. And I said, I believe I could write a book like this. I think we're reading Terry McMillan. And he
Right,
said,
right, because that was the go-to. She was it.
She was the it girl. She was the it girl because one of the things that happens in publishing is Black people don't get book deals. And so she was the one. It was her and Toni Morrison, I think, pretty much it. And so, because we're talking about the 90s, the mid 90s. And so I, shared that with him and he said, oh, well, if you can write, what do you need to do to activate that? So I said, well, because I think he was seeing dollar signs. And I said, well, if I had a computer, I think I would write a book. And at that time, computers were fairly new. They were really expensive. And he worked overtime. He was like, oh, I'm going to get you this computer. We got a computer. Honey, I got on the internet. I ain't wrote nothing. Then I said, I think if I had a nice desk, I would probably write the book. So we got me a really nice desk, got me all set up. Honey, I ain't written a book. So then finally I said, I think if I had a comfortable chair, and then I realized, there's nothing I need but the discipline to do the work.
Preach.
Okay. So we moved from our home in New Jersey to Atlanta. And what happened when I moved to Atlanta was opportunity and exposure to other writers. There were writers that I had been reading at the time because by now there's been an explosion in Black romance. BET Books were publishing these Black romance books. And so I was reading these books and there were several of the authors that I lived in Atlanta, and they were a part of this organization called Georgia Romance Writers. I joined it. The meetings that they were having monthly were a mile up the street from where I lived. Now you got to understand how big Atlanta is.
Yeah, I'm in Atlanta. Well, Douglasville. I'm in Douglasville.
Right? Okay, so I was in Norcross, and it was literally down the street. They met at a Piggly Wiggly down the street, and I was like, okay, I'm supposed to be a part of this group. So I went, I met these writers. I was there, getting some writing craft and really trying to, immerse myself kind of in this writing thing. But I had this place where I was struggling with what I would write. I was reading a lot of romance. I knew that a lot of publishers wanted it sexy.
Mm-hmm.
I got a pastor and some parents. I didn't feel like, I didn't understand how that would work for me. I was never that person that could separate my art from who I was.
Right.
And so I stopped being a part of that group. I had a sort of a stopping point, and I'll keep talking. So I probably answered your question.
The story is good, honey. It's good. So cute. I'm not going to interrupt you until I'm like,
yeah. Okay.
And I think
that my story, I like to tell it, especially in writers groups, because I think there are a lot of messages here. and a lot of lessons there. And so what happened is I struggled. And so I stepped away from that group, and I actually got a critique from one of the authors I really loved. And it was really brutal. Not brutal because she was brutal, she was kind. But I had not given her my best effort. I had not studied enough. And what I walked away from that critique thinking was, I'm not a writer. This was,
Wait, what did she say? What did she? I'm like,
honey,
what
it
did
was a mess, honey. She referred me to some grammar books. And I mean, I was like, oh, wait a minute. We're not just talking about the story. We're talking about basic stuff. I was so shamed. I had not, but I had not taken the time to polish it in the way. I did not appreciate that opportunity in the way that I should have. And so I tell writers all the time now who are rushing to get things to people. Um, who I had a conversation with a young lady just the other day. An agent was kind enough to give her feedback on her book. She turned around and she made the corrections that the agent asked her to make in 3 days and was like, should I send it back to her? And I was like, absolutely not. She will be insulted. She will not believe that you were able to execute what she asked in 3 days. And I guarantee you have not. But you're so busy trying to get to the finish line that you don't want to do the steps in the middle. You have not had anybody else look at this for sure to tell you if you hit those notes, you know what I mean? Stuff like that. So I did that. And so that's a cautionary warning to other people. And so what happened is I decided I wasn't a writer. I went back to school. I was moving up in my career. You know, there were certain places I wanted to move within the agency I was working for, and I needed a higher level of education. And so I went back to school and I decided I was not a writer. And so in 2002, the New Year's turning into 2003, I was home and I was praying as I normally do on New Year's Eve. Folks be fighting in parking lots to get into churches. Me and the Lord have a New Year's Eve thing. We have a date every year. And I sat there with my journal and I talked to the Lord. And I remember being on my knees when that was back when I could use my knees, praying beside my bed. And I said, Lord, what is my purpose? The Purpose Driven Life was a big book.
That's right. Rick Warren. Yeah.
And so I knew that I was good at my job. I knew that, I had a family, but I knew that there was something else that God had for me to do beyond those things. And I asked him what my purpose was. And he said, well, I've given you a gift to write, but you've abandoned that. So I said, okay, so what am I supposed to write? The whole world wants sexy romance. And I don't know what I'm supposed to write. And he said, write for me. You can write anything you want to write. This is what the Holy Spirit told me. You can write anything you want to write, but I will bless you more if you write for me. And so I felt like the more in that moment, Kia, was my health and my family. I didn't feel like it was money. I didn't immediately get that. Although, Lord, we talk about money all the time now. But I felt like it was just that I would be blessed in my soul. And I decided at that moment, I'm going to write Christian fiction. That's what I'm writing. And so the Lord, shortly after that, like literally, when I say shortly, 30 days. See how God is. 30 days later, I was in an online chat group. This was before social media. And I posted that I was looking for a critique group in Atlanta. That post was it was over a year old. Somebody responded to it and said, I'm in this critique group. You can come and meet with us just to see how we're set up and what we do. And then you can go find some writers and make one of your own. So you have an invitation to come see our setup. So I came to that meeting. I fell in love with those 9 women and literally begged them to let me stay. And you may know the names of some of these authors: Sherry Lewis, Tia McCullers, D. Stewart, who published under Miranda Parker, all people that went on to have great book deals.
Mm-hmm.
And so they looked at me and they were like, we're 9 because we're broke up in groups of 3. You're the 10th. We
You don't fit. You can't come.
Lord, but you're my blessing. So they let me stay. They like to tell that story too. Tia McCullers likes to tell that story about how I bust up in her meeting. So so that's how it began for me. It began in community with women who were all serious about Christian fiction, who wanted to put out quality books in the world, all Black women, because we were pretty much shut out of Christian publishing. If anyone was going to get a deal, you were going to have to write an amazing book, because there was only Sharon Ewell Foster at this point. Mm-hmm. Victoria Christopher Murray was had self-published, and then eventually got a deal with Simon & Schuster. But when you start saying one name here and one name there, you get an understanding that this is a closed door for us. But we believe that God would be faithful, and that he would make a way for us and bring us before the great and make these things happen for us. And so as we began to get our books done, Carl Weber was inspired to start a Christian imprint under his publishing company. And you didn't have to have an agent. And that was how I moved forward and got my first book deal.
Wow. I want to ask you about those 9 women. Were they all of the same mentality in terms of the sexy romance that they did?
Yeah.
Okay.
We were all writing Christian stories. And the beautiful thing was our hearts were so perfectly aligned with respect to what we consider to be quality, what we consider to be faith-based fiction. Mm-hmm. People can be really different in their opinions of what they think a Christian book is. And I stand on this 10 toes down. I don't care what nobody say, I'm right. Mm-hmm. There are people who believe that books set in a church, no matter how messy they are Christian fiction. And that's not, there's no ministry. That's a book set in a church. The setting, you could take that book and put it in a business atmosphere, and the story would have the same lack of anointing. Christian fiction has to, in some way, point people's heart in some kind of way towards Christ. Mm-hmm. It's like you said, you read the thing about home, you cried and had a moment.
I did.
If people don't have a moment, it doesn't have to be tears, because I'm a person who also believes that there are levels to this with Christian fiction. The same way there are levels to evangelism. We meet people where they are, right? So I likened it to a garden, because I'm a gardener. But when you start a garden, you have dirt. You have to move the soil around. You have to put a seed in. You have to water it. You have to put fertilizer. Eventually, you probably have to get weeds and get insects out. And then you get your harvest. That's what our faith is like. That's what evangelism is like. You have books that are very sort of light in their faith elements. You have those that are stronger, like a stronger Christian message. You have some books about spiritual warfare, because somebody's got to remove the soil. Then you've got to have people who tell the stories for the people who are further along that need like some conviction, or they want to learn something. They want to see themselves in a story. You have people dealing with spiritual warfare issues who need to get the weeds and the insects out. Mm-hmm. So the stories are on a range, and all of them are valid, and they all have a place. We struggle with that in Christian fiction. You have some people that are very kind of the same way we struggle with denominations, right, in the faith. Some denominate more high church than low church. My book more spiritual than yours. It all matters, because we all have a place on the spectrum of evangelizing people and blessing people, or even just entertaining Christians who don't want to read a nasty book.
Mm-hmm.
have a place.
That part. I mean, that's what one of the things I love. I feel like your book was kind of a bridge book. Because if I never step foot in a church, I could pick up this book and unexpectedly experience some transformation or some life change and be like, whoa, wait, And I'm gonna tell you where it happened for me. It was when I'm not giving any spoilers away, but it was when Ida said um that she was going to be content, that I'm paraphrasing, she was going to be content with not moving up north, but staying in the south with her husband and with those acres of land, because that's what he wanted to do. And I was like, you know what, this woman, she completely abandoned this longing.
Yeah.
But then look at the fruit of it, and I said, Jesus, I'm gonna get my whole self together. You know what I'm saying? I'm about to change.
Now you just reminded me of something. Okay.
What?
You see, I need to read my own books, but yeah, and it wasn't a story. What I tried to do with Ida, without spoiling the book also, I always want my female characters to have agency. She was able to get her education. She was able to do we're talking about the late 1800s, right? She was able to do some of the things she wanted. But as women, often, particularly in that time, and I think in this time too, we're often some of our dreams. I always say a woman can't have everything. You can't, because if you love the Lord, you are tethered to him and the people he has assigned you to by love.
That part.
And that requires sacrifices.
Oof. You need to put that in a bottle and sell it.
That requires sacrifices, whether people want to hear it or not. It just is what it is. And I'm not saying that men don't make sacrifices. Of course they do, but I write women's fiction. And so that's that. And I live in a female
but it ain't like the ones
you know what I'm saying? Okay, exactly. It ain't like the ones we be doing. I don't care what nobody says. So
we sacrifice our whole body.
Everything. And so so the funny thing about you saying that the thing about home is a bridge book. Wow. Did you use the right language? Even when Thomas Nelson acquired this book, I told them what I wanted to write because I wasn't sure that they were the right place for it. I knew that there was not going to be some walking down the aisle and Casey giving her life to the Lord. I knew what this story was. Are y'all going to be okay with publishing it the way I want to write it? You're a Christian, right. Thomas Nelson, okay?
Right.
And so they were like, we are looking for books that bridge, Rhonda.
Look at God.
And this is a bridge book. This is a book that will draw people to this genre. And so let me tell you what God has done.
I didn't even know that was a term, Rhonda. That's just how I
exactly look at that, right? It's an industry term. And so what has happened as a result, what I love about the thing about home is because I'm 60 years old, right? What? I have all of these young readers following me on Instagram in my inbox. I go to events. They just Rhonda McKnight, because they love this story so much. And we're talking sometimes people that read some kind of, they be reading some stuff. But I appreciate this book being in their heart and sitting on their shelf because it's like, there is space for you, Lord. No matter what the world is selling them, what they're looking at, they reread this. I know people that have an annual reread of this book.
What?
The work that the Lord meant continues. And I'm so grateful for the opportunity for him giving me that story because it came from nowhere.
Hey sis, I hope you enjoyed that interview snippet, and I want you to be sure and check out Entrusted Women University by visiting membership.entrustedwomen.com to see the interviews in their entirety. And join us next week for more content to help you on your writing and speaking journey.